Uh,
Hello. Hi, how are you?
Hi, Florian.
Good.
Good. How are you?
Yes.
Nice. Finally, we're going to do our first live
Yeah.
talk about
Yeah, I
static
think it can
apnea.
be very
Yes.
interesting for a lot of people who loves this discipline. And we'll start by browsing through all the questions we have, and then maybe we can develop a little bit on those topics. And then maybe if there is questions that we see on the live stream, once we're done, and if we're not too tired, we can also do those ones, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we just scrolled, and we can talk about how it's been for us before we start until people join in. How's your training now,
it's
Florian?
going good. I'm back over 9, and I feel that I will be able to go again at 10.5 in the near future. So fully recovered, and training is going good. I'm doing some weird experimentation at the moment, like with no suit, with colder water than usual, with putting water in my sinuses as well. And it's pretty interesting. No breakthrough yet, but some valuable skills with those new stuff.
Nice. That's interesting. I would try that too. I think it will help the relaxation and totally in different way. Yeah, you recovered from something.
Yeah.
What was that?
I had
a problem with
a vaccination issue, like called myocarditis, and that was in August last year. So it took me a really, really long time to recover. I'm not 100% sure yet I'm fully recovered, but according to my smartwatch, heart rate is back to normal. All the last tests at the hospital are good, like no more inflammation of the heart. However, I still have like a leak of blood, but it's going better. I used to have it on every beat, and then on the last test I did like about a few days ago, it was like every 5 or 6 beats, so it's slowly closing up. But in terms of performances, now I feel just as good as before.
Yeah, that's interesting. You're back to 9 after that. Yeah, same for me. I had COVID, but it took like 3-4 weeks to fully recover to get back to 9. So I'm back to 9. I'm trying to have goal to start with 9:30 in competition, and then we will see my capacity. I don't know. I never been over that, so
and
I can
didn't
see.
get
I can
so
say
much
if I can
training
10 or
after
not.
COVID yet to get back into 9. It was like very fast, right?
Yeah, it was very fast. I did some lung packing training to get back to same lung capacity, and I had 3 static sessions where I did full dive, and one like 2 days before the comp I did the classical Molchan of 20 minutes. I love to do it before. Yeah.
Cool.
There we are. So let's start. We have some people joining and going out.
We need to make a little jingle
We can start
with the static chat, like Joe Rogan style.
Yeah.
The Joe Rogan experience.
Yeah. I'll for the next one, I'll make a little jingle. All right. You want to start with the? Should we start with some questions? Okay. So
yes,
the first one we have, I'm starting from the bottom. So the first question we got from X2K. He was asking, does body type influence the ability to hold your breath? Like comparing like a slim person with like a fat person. Yeah. So in my opinion, it does affect, but it's not. It doesn't mean you're gonna have a very small breath hold if you're a little bit overweight, because this discipline is super mental. But yeah, physiologically, the more you're cutting weight and the leaner and slimmer you're going to be, the longer you're going to be able to hold your breath, which is not true in the other discipline, because strength is very important in order to swim properly and efficiently.
Yeah, exactly. Because you have to handle the lactic tolerance and all that, and you need some muscles for that too. So, but for static, for sure. In short term, its effect, if you are like bigger, you have bigger body, you can hold your breath for too long. But compared to if you were like smaller, but in long, it depends on the metabolism, I think, how you train, how you eat. So
Yeah,
you will improve.
and the thing
anyway.
we can add is that when we start talking about physiology in freediving, pretty much everything is pseudoscience. Like nothing is been tested 100%.
Yeah.
So when the community has the same opinion on a topic, then we kind of consider it as a true fact. But if you think about it, we don't really know for sure. Like talking about the weight again, like sometime when I'm around like 78, 80 kilos, I feel I could do 10 and a half if I would continue training at that weight. And you could maybe explain it with some physiology. However, it's just cutting weight, the gain in time is significant. Like to me, like 10 kilo of weight is usually what I drop, and I'm getting a minute extra on the time usually compared to my previous weight.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just wanted to say to everyone, like everything is pseudoscience in freediving. There is not enough money in the sport to conduct proper research. And the community is considering something true when the overall amount of athletes agree on one thing.
Yeah, we're still experimenting with those things too. Myself, I lost also 10, 11 kilo for World Championship last year. And during the training, I did my first 9 during that time when I lost weight. But now I'm back to like half of the weight, but doing same time. But I don't know. We're still experimenting to see how it goes, because we push the limit, we get better, and then we have to drop weight and see the difference. So yeah, it's a lot of pseudoscience too. Yeah, we can go with all question that X2 K2
after this is Samun. He was saying that he did a 4-minute breath hold with no hyperventilation. Contraction started at 2:15, and then he heard probably, or he read somewhere, that for static apnea you can hyperventilate a little bit, and his breath hold went up to 6 minutes very comfortably with the contraction at 4 minutes this time. So he was asking us what are our thoughts on this.
Yeah, I can start with that. I had same experience when I started with static. When I learned to how to hyperventilate, it get much easier. So my first 6:37 minutes was with like heavy hyperventilation. But by time I learned to that, like, okay, I don't need that much hyperventilation. I needed to like slow it down because I felt that my heart rate was going up. I felt a little bit stressed by like hyperventilating a lot, and also I get hypoxia much faster. So I started to do less hyperventilation, and now I do it again when I'm in bad shape. It depends on how much static I train. If I'm really like been doing long dives for a long time, I don't need to hyperventilate so much. I don't know what.
Well, I mean, overall, I think we can all agree that in every discipline, actually, not only static apnea, the less you breathe before your dive, the less you are limited with hypoxia. However, you're going to feel more uncomfortable because you're starting the dive with more CO2, so you're going to finish it with a lot more CO2. So the dive is uncomfortable. And the more you breathe before the dive, the more comfort you will get in the dive, but you will be limited with hypoxia. And bit per bit, as you grow in performance, you will have to slow down your breathing. And this rule is for all discipline, even static apnea. It's just that in static apnea, you can start by using quite a lot of it, a lot of hyper, and then at some point, depending on your lung size, weight, fitness level, metabolism, you will be limited with hypoxia sooner or later. And then once you're limited with hypoxia, you're going to have to slow down the breathing, same as any other discipline. So yeah, you breathe slow, you have more discomfort, but less limitation. You breathe fast, you feel comfortable, but you're very limited in hypoxia.
Yeah, we have a follow-up question on that, Marco. Can you define how much liter minutes you mean with light, medium, heavy hyperventilation?
So I usually recommend people to do like a 5 second in, 5 second out. That's going to make you breathe between 6-7 breaths a minute. And I would say estimation of liters would be 15 to 20 liters a minute, I would guess. If we consider that when we are resting, we are around 8 liters per minute with tidal breathing. The standard way to breathe when you start focusing on static apnea would be twice more than your natural tidal breathing.
Yeah.
And then when you will be limited with hypoxia, you will slow it down bit by bit.
Nice.
Yeah.
Let's go to next question.
So to Rami, why did you leave school from Egon?
Yeah. Yes, it's an old student to me. Hi, Egon. Yeah, I moved from there to another place, and I have to find a new work. So that's why.
Simple
Egon.
question. Okay, another question for you from Nick Broom. Question for Rami. He's caught COVID, and he noticed that you were unlucky had it recently, and he was asking if you think doing some pranayama, breathing, or other breathing techniques could speed up the recovery, or actually he's not saying speed up recovery, but is it possible to keep doing some breathing exercise while you're having COVID?
I felt that I was much stiffer around my lungs after COVID. So I did a packing training I do, like pack 20% and push it up and down. Another thing I did, like to build up the strength in my diaphragm, because I felt I was like getting tired of packing and holding my breath with a lot of air in lungs. So I can show you how it looked like when I train this, when I do this exercise. I fully inhale like this, and I just let a little air go out, and I take another one like this. And each time I take a full breath, like trying to take more air by one inhale. I do it like 20 times, rest 1 minute or 30 seconds, and 20 times again. And after that, I do the packing training. That's what I did. No other pranayama or other breathing.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, we are not doctors, so we wouldn't like to tell you what to do. But in our opinion, I think depending, if you don't have a severe case of COVID, obviously, if you have mild symptoms, I think it's still fine to keep stretching gently or do few breathing exercise. I had the same feedback actually from a lot of online students because everyone is getting COVID right now, and they just lost flexibility in the lungs. That's the feedback they gave me. So I think doing a little bit of stretching, focusing on the lungs tissues would be like the right way to go to get back in shape, because you're definitely going to lose some while being sick. That's for sure. Yeah. And like that reminds me, like the lungs, we always say there's no nerves in the lungs, which is true, but there is receptors in the lungs. Otherwise, if you swallow smoke or inhale smoke or inhale like dust, you wouldn't cough anything. So there is sensors, mechanoreceptors in the lungs that will be connected to your spine and then to the part of the brain, the medulla. And if those sensors are not so happy about the quality of your lung tissue from COVID, of course, when you're going to hold your breath, they're going to trigger the breathing reflex earlier. You might have like early contractions when you start training after COVID, I would guess. Yeah. Who knows? Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Next is again X2K. What is the maximum days of static we can do in a row? And I read somewhere that doing too much can fry your nervous system.
Yeah, I think it's depend on how trained you are and what's your training background and what your tolerance is. Some people can get overtrained by like one maximum a day, some with 2 a week. So it's totally depends on, but the most important, in my opinion, is to build up it slowly and don't push too much. So for me, I can do like 3-4 maximum static in week for like 1 to 3 months. So, but with some people I train with who can also do 9-8 minutes, they have to like maximum dive should be no more than 1.
It depends actually when you do your max, how much effort you're putting. So if you do 100% effort, you cannot do it more than once or twice a week. Otherwise, your mental is gonna just break down. It's just not enjoyable enough. And but if you are keeping a little reserve, even like 20-second, 30-second reserve, so you're doing a fake max, then those ones you can do almost every day for quite a while, depending on how much you love static, but you can do a lot for quite some time. However, I would say that if you do only like a few warm-ups and then a max or a fake max on every session, you're going to lose conditioning. So maybe your performance will go up for a while, but at some point it will start to drop because you're just not training CO2 tolerance, not training hypoxia, not training flexibility. There's just not enough volume of training for you to stay at the peak. So, So overall, it depends how much effort you do in your max. There's a lot of chat in freediving about how much training we can do and overtraining. And my opinion is you can train actually a lot. You have to increase, exactly like you said, Rami, you have to increase the quantity. You cannot say I'm starting on Monday, 1st February, with 1 hour of static a day. Like that's never going to work. You have to start with maybe 3 breath hold. The next session, next day, you will do 4, 5, and then you build up the volume as the weeks pass. And then at some point, you will arrive at a very high volume of breath hold, and that's going to trigger like a very good adaptation.
Yeah. That's with all other sports too. You get better like recovery too by time.
The recovery in static is pretty fast. Like static apnea is the discipline I think where you can train almost every day because the muscles don't get tired. So basically, it is nervous system, blood, who needs to recover, and then your mental, your subconscious as well. So as long as you're taking care of this by not pushing too hard on every session, whatever exercise you're doing, then you can actually train a lot. Like I train like 6 days a week in average. Sometimes I do 15 days straight with 0 days off.
Yeah. We had a follow question on that. How many times a week you are doing hypoxia?
Me personally, I do hypoxia almost every day at the start of a training cycle because empty lung is really a nice way to get in shape very, very fast compared to full lung exercise. Never in the water for the empty lung. And then after I decrease it. So I start almost every day. I will do 4 or 5 half long, empty lung breath holds as warm up for whatever exercise on full lung I want to do next. And then as the months pass, I will start to do 3 times a week, then 2 times a week, then once a week at the very last stage of my training. What about you?
Yeah. Almost every morning, some like empty lung. Not every day pushing to like very low SpO2, but around 50%. I try to stay, and sometimes I go lower. If I do it in water, I have like a bucket at my home in very cold water, but I do it in FRC with someone looking at me. Of course, never alone, but almost every day. Yeah.
Okay. Should we move on? So how long do we wait?
Yes.
This is also X2K. How long do we wait before we see benefits of long stretching? I'm referring to yoga poses that open up the chest. Good question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You are the expert.
So this is in my opinion, it's a long shot. The stretching. It took me years personally. Like I think the first 5 years of freediving, I never stretched. I was just diving often, so my flexibility was increasing naturally, but I was never doing like a stretching session. And then as the years passed, I sort of learned to enjoy stretching, and then the quantity of stretching increase. And then let's say that this year and last year is like the first time I think I feel I'm enjoying stretching session. Even yoga, some yoga session like yin yoga, I start to enjoy yin yoga. So to be more precise in the question, I don't think when you start stretching you will feel immediate result or significant result. It will take a few weeks. However, you will see after a few weeks of stretching daily, your contractions will start to be softer, less intense, and they usually come a bit later as well when you're flexible, which makes sense. You know, if you have a stiff rib cage, as soon as the breathing reflex starts, then you're going to feel a lot of pressure and your body is going to move quite a lot if you're stiff. If you have your rib cage nice and soft, when the breathing reflex starts, you just don't really feel anything, and the contractions are barely visible until a certain point. But there's no way to measure it. Those I'm answering just from my personal experience and then from all the people I've coached over the years. You start to see result after months of regular stretching, not much before, I would say.
Yeah, it takes time. I still not enjoying stretching, but I know that I have to do it. So I always do it like before I run and doing a lot of strength training. So I have to do it before and after. Otherwise, I feel too stiff and I can't do the static. So I need to keep that like every day too. But I keep it short, maximum 10-15 minutes per day. That's enough.
Yeah, same for me actually. I do 20 minutes 20 minutes to 30 minutes per day, or like one session, and then sometime I feel like I want another session on the same day, and then I do another 20, 30 minutes, but I keep it short. So because you have to keep it regular, like it's actually quite impressive how fast we get stiff, especially for people who likes to go to the gym or do other sports. You get stiff a lot faster than you get flexible. So
Yeah, some a few hours
yeah,
after you are like directly, your body need to recover. You have
yeah,
inflammation around your into your muscles around your lungs, all
yeah.
that. So you need to recover. So that's you need to keep
Yeah, you
stretching
have
if
to do
you
it
do
very
other
regularly,
exercises.
almost daily. And because of that, you have to keep it short unless you really enjoy stretching. But if you don't enjoy that much, just do 15, 20 minutes, 3, 4 position of 3, 4 minutes each. That's enough, focusing on your rib cage. And then you can build up the volume bit per bit. But, you see like Rami and I, we actually don't do much in quantity, like 15, 20 minutes. Both of us are doing this as often as possible, but they are not very long stretching sessions.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
hold on. Next question is from
Next question.
Colin Cole. Uh,
It's four
yeah, she says
questions.
she's very
Five.
greedy with the question. So, how is the best method to combine static and dynamic with a limited amount of time at the pool? So I guess you have to
Yeah.
kind of, if you want to mix it, you have to do one discipline very shortly and then another discipline main focus. So like a couple of static, 2 or 3 static only, and then your main dynamic session. And then the next day or the next time you go to the pool, you do maybe the opposite. You do a long static session. And then me, I prefer to start with the static because I don't want to risk being cold. And usually in dynamic, because you're swimming, you do a lot of drills, you don't get cold that easily. And in static, because you're not moving, you get cold fast. So I would suggest that you start with static for that reason, always. However, you can, if cold is not a problem, there is no rule. You can do static after dynamic and reach a great result also. So yeah, I would just have like one discipline where you do very, very short amount of breath hold, and then the other discipline, the main one, and switch it up.
Yeah. It's same for me. If I do like if I want to start with dynamic, so I have to do the long dives first, like 1 or 2 with very long rest, and then I do static. I have a problem with cold, so mostly when I done dynamic first, I do this CO2 training static after dynamic. And if I start with static, I also do the long dives and no CO2, and do my CO2 with dynamic if I mix it like that. Otherwise, I do one discipline per time.
Yeah, you can start mixing both discipline in one session, maybe at the beginning of a training plan, and then when the performances are getting at the high level, I would recommend you stick to one discipline on each session because you can't push yourself properly twice in one session. It just doesn't really work once you're at the highest level of your own performance. But at the beginning, you can do 2 disciplines, no problem. I do static and dynamic usually in one session also. Yeah. She's asking also what complementary sport gym training. That's probably good you answer this. I think we are the same on that.
Yeah, I think actually it depends on what phase in training you are and what your goal is. So is it in the beginning of your training period for a max attempt or competition? Let's say if you are 3 months away, I would say you can do a lot of heavy gyms and running intervals, but it will affect you the closer you come to your attempt. So I would say the best sport is the one you most enjoying, because static is a hard sport, like can be hard mentally for a lot of divers. So you have to enjoy when you use another sport as complementary. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I would
say
say in
just
terms of sports, which is very good with free diving, when you're not training for improving your performances, high intensity stuff, and then when you're training to improve, you need to switch more to recovery workouts, so light intensity and endurance. After you can do this with every sport, of course. My favorite for static apnea is swimming and running. It's where I really feel the most benefits. And as Rami said, I agree with, like, when you start your training plan, you need to do super heavy gym. When I say heavy gym, means like heavy weight, as heavy as you can lift, like with few reps, and then lighter and lighter weights as the training plan continues, and then at the very end stop everything.
yeah, exactly, because you also get bigger muscles, you have more bloods, and by the time you recover faster. So if you have a good base before you start the hardest part of the training, you will have better recovery by time. So that's why I also do very heavy training in the beginning. Let's go to
She's
the
asking
third question.
when do we need to stop physical activity before a max attempt? So it depends on your level, but I would say 3 days to 7 days is enough.
Yeah, I would say the same. It's same for me. I feel that is it shorter, I will like feel it in the max attempt that I like I had something was wrong. Something was using too much energy.
I agree. I think 10 days is really like the max you can stop physical activity. Like to keep all this air in during a dive or during a breath hold, you actually need strong muscles and strength. If you stop working out, strength in the breathing muscles, it will reduce already after a week. So you have to work out almost till the end. Actually, it's just that the intensity goes down. She's also
because if
she's also asking when do we introduce packing for static. My opinion is 4 minutes. I introduce as soon as 4 minutes is the amount of time a person needs to hold their breath to become instructor. When you do an instructor course, we ask you to do a 4-minute breath hold. So from that moment, I consider that you're not playing anymore. You're becoming a professional at 4 minutes, at least in static apnea. So from that moment, I teach packing and recommend to use it.
Yeah, I would say the same. And start slowly with packing, and don't try to overpack so much. And as you said, you need the strength. So if you don't train your diaphragm and the muscles around your lungs, you will not be able to keep that amount of air for a long time.
Totally agree.
Keep
and
training.
Her next question is, in dry training, is dry training as effective as in-water training for max attempts, assuming that they are also doing some wet training and maintaining in the water? This is a bit tricky one.
Yeah, I would say you will get used to the one
so you train
most.
mostly dry, you'll be good at dry. You train mostly water, you'll be good in the water. You train both equally, you'll be just good in both. Me personally, I try to have the same breath hold dry, or like slightly lower, maybe 30 seconds less than in the water. And in quantity, I do 50-50. 50%, so all the long training, high volume training, I do it dry to not piss off my safety. And anything which doesn't last more than 45 minutes, I do it in the water. And there is benefits in training dry, lots of benefits in training dry. You increase flexibility faster by having contractions dry than compared to in the water. And relaxation, heart rate is higher. So usually the sensation are more overwhelming dry compared to water. So you're preparing yourself when you train dry for a worse situation than what's going to happen in the water. So it's very good for the mind. And then you don't need safety. So you can do like high volume of training while watching movies or documentaries or listening music. This is usually what I do. So there is the main value of dry training is the quantity of breath hold you can do.
Yeah, that's true. But I hate myself. I hate dry training. I only do the empty lungs and FRC at home. I don't know. I feel that, in water I'm much more comfortable, and I can have much more volume of training in water, because I feel a little bit like I'm getting closer to overtraining when I do it at home, mentally, not physically. It's because it's harder, as you said, and enjoying more in water. So I think also it depends a little bit, but maybe for 10 minutes I need to do more at home, 50-50.
You need to also listen what your body and brain are asking you, and not just copy whatever others are doing, because the others they are trying to listen their body and see. Anyway, we told you the value of dry training versus in water training. After it's a personal choice as well. Okay. Is from
Next question.
Rejan or Rejan.
Do you guys prefer holding your breath on an empty stomach, pros and cons, contraction, to eating, pros and cons, to eating, not eating in both competition and training situation? Myself, I have to eat like 4 or 5 hours before, otherwise I'm too hungry. And it's also because I train a lot and I have to recover, but during most of the training time. But last month of training, I try to eat less and have some more hours before training. My last meal can be 6 hours, and it's also because I'm doing like some fasting, light fasting. Otherwise, I try to add as much energy as possible to get recover for next session. So my goal is not to perform best at training. So that's why I don't care so much about the meal. Of course, to find the relaxation and get later contractions, it's good to not be so close between the meal and training. So for me, 4 hours is enough. And then I just change it.
Yeah, also depends when you train. If you train in the evening or late afternoon, you're not going to fast all day before every training session or competition. It's just too much. Me, I train always in the morning as early as I can. So I'm always, for static apnea, on empty, a complete empty stomach. However, when I do a big one, so anything above like 9.5, I will have a piece of dark chocolate, like one square, and I just noticed I get less hypoxic. I get slightly earlier contraction and slightly higher discomfort, which is not a problem. But for hypoxia, when I'm totally empty, it comes slightly earlier. I'm talking about like 20 seconds earlier. So for that reason, I started eating one piece of dark chocolate 2 hours before the max attempt.
Yeah, you need to keep your blood sugar level stable. Yes, let's go to the next question. Is it X2K again?
Vyacheslav Kulikov. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. I'm surely I do. Okay, what is the minimum heart rate during static, and do you feel any discomfort when your heart rate is at the lowest? I experience a very unpleasant sensation when it happens. So my lowest heart rate is like 28 on empty lung and 33 on full lung during breath hold. And I don't feel any sort of unpleasant sensation. Sometimes a little bit scared for a few seconds because it's just weird to have a big break between each heart stroke. It feels like a big break. So sometimes I get a little scary, like I'm waiting for the heart to pump. And then for half a second or a millisecond, I'm wondering, so is it coming or what? But it's not unpleasant. It's just sometimes I get a little bit some paranoia. I don't know where this unpleasant sensation is coming from. I think it can be you just surprised on how low your heart rate can be. And then maybe it's just some anxiety. But if it's a real physical discomfort, you should definitely just stop the exercise and maybe go to a doctor, do a few breath hold with a doctor who has like an ECG, like a echography thing, to make sure there's no heart condition that hasn't been detected or something. Yeah, so most likely it's in your head. If it's really a physical sensation, you need to get it checked out. Or it can also be some muscles which you feel it's your heart, but it's just like some muscles around the chest that are not flexible enough. And when the contractions are becoming big, you're feeling some sort of tightness that you interpret as a heart discomfort, but maybe it's not.
Yeah. For me, I think at the lowest I had, it was during a study we made last year. After it was on full lung, and I had 27 after 4.5 minutes. So it started from 56, 52, and I was like in 4 minutes, I was around 52, 54. And then it dropped like very fast for during 15 seconds. I was on under 30, and it's like very slowly it was going up again. So during 7:30, I think 7:30, I was back to 54.
It's funny. I used to have a lot of up and downs a few years ago in the heart rate during breath hold, and now it's like a straight line down. Like there's just which is
That's good.
Very strange. There's definitely the fact that I'm ventilating less and less. So because I have more CO2, the bradycardia is stronger. The more you're going to use breathing, the more it's going to have ups and downs. And also, I think it's a matter of flexibility. So like if your flexibility is not the highest, you will have more up and down. As soon as you get contraction, it's like the heart is getting compressed between the lungs, and then that probably gives you a bit of a tachycardia or less bradycardia, let's say. This is how I see it in a how I explain it physiologically, but we never know. Yes, pseudoscience once again.
Yeah, it depends on a lot of things like blood pressure. We have a follow-up question on that. What is the lowest heart rate during static for women?
Yeah, you need to ask the woman, but it has to be very low as well. I think I would assume they can get lower than male on average. Usually, like women have a lower heart rate, lower resting heart rate than men, but it depends of your sport background and genetics also, and diet and a lot of things. But I would say if we do a general statistic, I would bet that woman has a lower heart rate than men during breast hold. Yeah, I saw
another follow question, because you don't find heart rate rises just before first contraction. For me, it was lower when I get the contraction, so it doesn't matter. I think, I don't know. Of course, it will. Like, you use more energy when you have contractions, but you also have the bradycardia.
What's the question? I missed it.
It was you don't find heart rate rises just before first contraction if your heart rate rises before.
Normally, the main bradycardia, the main drop of heart rate, is happening from the moment you have contraction or from the moment you feel carbon dioxide, because that it's carbon dioxide that dilate your blood vessels, and then the blood flow is better and the heart rate start to go down. So if you do a breast hold, usually you see your main bradycardia. You can even adjust your bradycardia by breathing a bit more, a bit less, the main drop I'm talking about. So if you have a heart rate which is going up before the first contraction, it's either you use too much breathing, or you're packing too much for your current flexibility, or it's anxiety. So you're having a problem switching the mind, like in your relaxation phase and your contraction phase, there is a moment where you have to accept the situation and adapt mentally. Maybe you're not adapting mentally in that part of the breath hold, and then that spiked the heart rate.
Yeah. Okay, we need to go. We have a lot of questions left, and we have a question. Will you guys post the recording for this session? Yes, of course. After this,
if we don't fuck up the recording, we're posting, because it's the first time we do this, but we will try to do this. Yeah.
Yes, let's go
a
bit faster to the question.
So next is ADAS, max static and no contraction static time correlation. Different kind of strategy to block and delay contractions. So in average, I like to have the first contraction halfway on my time, or slightly later than halfway, but not significantly later. Otherwise, I'll get hypoxic too early for the time I want to do. And according to my experience with coaching students, is a little bit the same. Like if I have a student who is doing 6 minutes and I ask him when is the first contraction and he's telling me 5, I know already before I see the 6-minute video that he's on the edge, because doing 6 minutes with 1 minute of contraction, it really shows that you are overusing ventilation. So yeah, I would say halfway or slightly after halfway your total time is the right way to set up the first contraction.
Yeah, I think it's same for me. Now I don't want to know when my contraction starts, so I always tell my coach to surprise me by the time, and not earlier than 4:30. So, or maybe over 5 to let me know the first time you give me. So I don't know exactly where my contraction starts. It's something mentally I don't want it anymore, and I feel much more comfortable, because if it's I had the problem sometimes I had contraction from 3 minutes and I made 9 minutes on that. So, but it was like, okay, next time if it starts 3 minutes, I will not make it. It's too hard. But if I don't know when it started, I will not think about it. It's a mental
if it starts too early, it doesn't mean your breath hold won't be good. It will be a hard one, but it can be a good one. Of course, you cannot have it too early, because if you have too many contractions, too much discomfort, your capacity to relax and accept the situation with a low heart rate and with good confidence is not going to be good. So having too much discomfort is going to just pump the oxygen as well. So yeah, just remember around halftime of your total time or a little bit later is what you are hoping to get.
Yeah. Next question.
What length of exercise benefits static most? I see Rami is climbing a lot. So we actually already answered that question. I was saying that running and swimming is my favorite sport for static apnea as a complement. And then weightlifting, I guessing for you is weightlifting and boxing.
Yeah, I mix it. If I feel like, okay, I'm a bit tired of running and my legs need more recovery, then I know that it's no idea to run. So I do boxing or climbing using my arms, but I try to keep a continuity of training. So it's the band of feeling. Of course, sometimes if it's like for World Championship, I have a stick plan to do this these days. But most of the time during the year, I don't have that type of 100% plan. To maybe for the gym, for strength training, like 6 weeks, I have to do this. But when I mix it up, I don't care.
And X2K is asking any dietary nutritional recommendation for static. So I would say you need to eat healthy and as organic as you can with as much antioxidant as you can. And in terms of amount of calories, you have to eat slightly less calories than what your metabolism is burning. So let's say you can eat 2,000 calories a day and not gain any weight. That means that your body is dealing with 2,000 calories properly. Well, during your static training, you should start just below the 2,000 calories. And then as you are going through your training plan, you need to start reducing the amount of calories. And by the end of the training, when you're going to peak, I would say you should eat twice less calories than normal.
Yeah, I totally agree. How you eat is more important than what you eat when you're tapering. But if it's like long before competition, I would say also to not get stick with some dietary, because like if you use like food with high pH level and like we're using bicarbonate, your body need to like it will get adapt to it, and you have like around 7 pH. So if you're always high, your body will produce more acids. So it's not good to always doing same dietary. So it's good also. It's my recommendation and what I feel to change it, and also how you eat and lower calorie before tapering is the most efficient way to not burn so much energy. Let's go to next.
Overtraining in static, how do you recognize it? And what do you do if it's happening? You have like complete days off. You don't have to stop training. You can just focus on stretching for a few days and not doing any breath hold. How you recognize it in static is just mostly you are giving up early. And the overtraining most of the time in static apnea is mental and not physical. You really need to have a giant quantity of training static to have like overtraining physiologically, which means like your blood will be too acidic and then you get early contraction. So most of the time it will happen just in your head, and it's because you're just pushing yourself too much. You have to just always like keep a reserve in every exercise, and that will make you have no overtraining. And you have to also check the quantity of training you can handle. You know, there is people who can train every day, twice a day, and there is people who will perform the best when they have 3 sessions of static apnea a week. So you have to kind of listen to yourself, and then that will avoid any sort of overtraining.
Yeah, I would say I have like, if I train a lot, like high volume of training, I've been feeling bad. Insomnia is the one problem I have. How I deal with it, I try to keep training, but in different way. Keep my blood pressure, blood circulation on by cycling, walking, breathing in different way by nose breathing and jogging, and try to not doing static for 1-2 days. And yeah, as you said, it's mostly mentally, but sometimes it's happened that you feel it physically too, if you train a lot. That also I've done like 2 times a day for sometimes. As Marcus says, I think we all need episode 2 of all the other questions. I don't know how many questions do we have.
Yeah,
We have
it's
a lot
okay.
of
We don't
questions
need
left.
to do them all. We'll do our best, and then they will try again on the next one. How much time do you have at front of you?
I have
Okay.
I have like 30 minutes.
Let's do that, and then we do
go.
our best. So let's go a bit
Okay.
quicker. So there is the next question. They're asking us: do we do one recovery breath, FRC or RV CO2 table, and what's the benefit of doing it? I don't. I do 2 breaths and on full lung and very casually. So a lot of people do too much CO2 training in static apnea. It's really not necessary. You have to do the CO2 training, CO2 table, only when you feel that the urge to breathe is a limiting factor and there's just no evolution or progress in your max attempt. As long as you keep progressing and your time regularly goes up, you actually don't really need to focus and do a specific training of CO2. And the CO2 on Excel is not going to be valuable at all for static apnea, in my opinion. It will get valuable for depth a lot more. Yeah, that's my take on it. So I don't know if you do those sort of training, but
No, I don't. I do CO2 tables, but it's also when I feel I need it, like before competitions, or not always. Sometime before competition, I feel that I have enough tolerance, and I need to do more O2. So it totally depends on the feeling too. But as you said, not so much CO2, and on empty lungs is it's not so comfortable. I do it with 2 recovery breaths and with packing. That's my favorite.
Same for me. So yeah, don't do this. So you're wasting a bit your time, and even for depth, empty lung breath hold dry is very helpful for depth, but you have to do it with no hyperventilation. Like otherwise, it's not helpful for depth. So there's a lot of deep divers who does empty lung static, sitting upright, dry, and they use no hyperventilation. And the idea is to simulate the sensation you will get on the way up while you're swimming, and then your lungs are compressed and you start being quite heavy in CO2. Okay, the next thing is connection between static and other discipline and spearfishing. Like, what are the... My opinion is it helps everywhere. So like, I really see static apnea as the foundation of your abilities, the bottom level, the beginner level. And the bigger your foundation is, the more everything follows easily. And I had tons of students who improved their static by 1 minute over a month, and then they go in the water they start training depth and they feel a lot more comfortable, a lot more confident. And same for other discipline like dynamic or spearfishing. So even if the breathing is the same, in my opinion, the longer your static breath hold is, the more you're going to have benefits in the other discipline. You just have more time, you're more relaxed, you're more confident in your abilities, and then you know how to enter a deep relaxation quickly, you know.
Yeah, I would say you get better on the sport you train. The more you train the sport, you better you get. But static have some benefits for sure. Also, for mostly, I would say for beginners. Now I feel that I have trained much more dynamics to get better in dynamics. Otherwise, I would, if it was like so connected, static and dynamic, I would die much longer in dynamic. But it's for me now I need almost stop train static to get better in dynamic most because the time I added like I had 5-6 sessions static per week, so now I have to do it half of it for the dynamic.
Yeah,
Yes.
don't misunderstand what I said. You cannot do static only and then just go in the water and think you're gonna dive 50-meter deep. It doesn't work like this. You get good at what you practice. Exactly. But in terms of conditioning, just in terms of long size, there's no discipline that develop long size apart from static. And long size is very, very important. We don't talk about it enough, but the bigger your lungs, the less issue you have with hypoxia. So static, just by this, when I say it's the foundation, it's just, it gives you the right relaxation, the right diving reflex, and the right lung capacity. The next question is a little tricky one from Free Sue. I kind of wonder what you guys MBTI, which stands for Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. Since I'm more and more curious about the personality of freedivers, so I actually Googled because I didn't know what was MBTI. It's sort of like stereotype of personality as freedivers. Like, what are the stereotype of personalities in freediving? You want to bitch on our friends, Rami, or I do it?
Yeah, I'm reading now what it is in Swedish. It's mostly about the mental, how you improve individually and in group by training, and your will, how your will will change by time.
Yeah, I didn't understand it this way. I thought it was more like kind of a one word to define personalities of freediver, I would say. Well, anyway, next time she can try to make it a bit more clear for us because we don't know this. But I would say like freedivers are quite a bunch of hippies, to be honest, including ourselves. You need to be kind of a relaxed dude to enjoy these sports in general. I would say that. I would say that you need a decent ego. If you don't have ego, you don't. It's arguable. Huh? Some people will say the exact opposite of what I'm saying, but I think you need a good ego if you want to perform well. And then I will say also selfish. Like usually freedivers are a bit selfish. All athletes need to be selfish, to do some sacrifice to have more time for training and progressing. Yeah, I would say this. I don't know what else would you say, Rami?
I would say
right.
Same as
you. Next is introducing a lot of cardio, long distance jogging, going noticeable increase the max static performance. So does a lot of cardio help improving static performance? We already kind of talk about it. And then we said that high intensity at the beginning of a training plan, and then changing to mostly endurance or recovery workout, low intensity, as the training plan evolves and as your time are going higher and higher. Okay, so there's Nicola who is asking, when will the little Padawan eventually beat the Jedi Master? So
we don't know. I don't know if I can do longer.
We don't know. I would say already since I was coaching you, that was already a few years ago. It was for 8 minutes, I remember. And so what? It's been 2 years already. 1 year. So
1 year.
According to your progression, if you really want, I would say I have 2 years before you beat me. Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
We'll
that's
see.
interesting.
Yeah.
We'll see. Voilà.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you draw a discomfort graphic to show how it progressed from the beginning till the end of a max breath hold? Would be amazing if you could also show example of heart rate graph in correlation with discomfort. So we cannot show any graphic right now. And it doesn't really matter actually, because heart rate will change depending on how much ventilation you're using. So if you check the heart rate of a person and you compare it to another, it's not the lowest heart rate have the biggest breath hold. It doesn't really always work like this, because it's proportional to relaxation and ventilation. So someone who will use more breathing will have a higher heart rate. Someone who will use less breathing will have a lower heart rate.
Yeah, it's how much your body
and
consumes
the graphic
energy
will
during
look
this
like
time.
this. It will look a little bit up at the beginning because of packing, and then it will be a bradycardia after that all the way through the breath hold with like little variation up and down. But the overall will go down, especially from the moment you feel CO2, and then at the end you will the heart rate will go a little bit up because you're getting hypoxic and blood has to circulate faster to deliver oxygen. So you go up, down, up, the graph.
Yeah.
Next is what time do each of you or the top 3 divers get your first contraction, especially when you're at the 9-minute level from Cobb?
Yeah, for me, I think it's around 3.5.
Yeah,
4.5.
for me it's 4.5 to 5.5 for the max breath hold. 4.5 to 5.5. Yeah. So okay, and Luna, how do you divide or break down your static time? I usually heard there is 3 stages: the happy stage, the awareness, and then the fight stage. I don't know if it's the same for you. Yeah?
Yeah, it's same for me. It's like happy time in the beginning, and then it gets harder because the amygdala of your brain sending signals that's okay, you are doing something crazy, and it will not get much worse. For me, it's like it's planning out. I feel same pain, like same little panic, and then in the end, because the CO2 drops down, you don't feel so much. So I like, you're like, time goes
I
so
do the
fast
same as
in
well. I consider 3-stage relaxation, I call it, transition, and then fighting. So 3-stage also. And however, I divide the whole breath hold per minute. So like first minute, the coach is going to tell me the time every minute from start to finish. And then I do one mission. Like I have one mission per minute. Like minute 1 is going to be like relax belly and chest and try to handle packing in a better way. Minute 2 is like body scan. Minute 3 is feeling the CO2, trying to let go of more tension, even if it's very mild CO2. Then it will be like feeling sleepy from 3 to 4, like visualizing my bed, visualizing sofa, visualizing having a nap, even yawning on the water to kind of give me like a sleepy vibe. So yeah, every minute I have a target, and I never think about the breath hold, like a 10-minute breath hold. Like when I enter the water, mission 1. When I hear 1 minute, mission 2. And then I take it step by step. I think only one minute ahead.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've been, in my club, we've been discussing why you want to get there every minute. So
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
No.
That's
Yeah.
interesting mind map.
Okay. Marco, I'd like to know about training periodization over a year.
Yeah, we've been discussing that a little bit. It's dependent when you have your competition, how important the competition is compared to other competitions. You have to make like CBA competition. Like, let's say for this competition, I don't need to do some tapering at all. For this competition, I need to try what I want to do in a competition. So if you have the chance and like to compete more, do it. And I would say you will find a lot of good benefits of it too. But
so
you don't
I don't
compete so much.
I usually do 1 per year, maximum 2. So I don't have this problem of peaking, going to the max performance that often. So me, I make it a bit more simple. I usually do static for the first 3 months, 4 months, 6 months of the year, full focus as like a foundation of everything. And then when I'm set, usually I try to reach my goal within June every year. And then from June, I do only static maintenance. So I do like one training a week or 2, and just like max breath hold without any warm-up, just to maintain a decent performance. And then I start to focus on dynamic and depth for the second half of the year. So I'm using static as like a conditioning process before I move on to the real freediving discipline, let's say.
Yeah, in long term, it's my goal to like, I'm using static to get better in freediving.
So there is DJ Libardi who is asking us, which advice would you give to a beginner, and how many hours per week of training? So how many hours per week of training? I would say like 3, maybe 2 or 3 sessions. And as we talked earlier in this broadcast, you need to build up the volume. So you start with very small session, and then few sessions a week, and then the next week you do longer session, and then maybe add 1 more session, and so on and so on. So you build up the quantity. And advice for beginner, I would say, whatever discipline you do, whatever exercise you do, always keep some reserve, 10-meter reserve or 20, 30-second reserve in every exercise, even CO2 exercise, O2 exercise, everything. And occasionally only push it to 100%. You have any other beginner tip that comes to your mind?
Yeah, I would say same, and increase by feeling. Don't try to kill yourself in the beginning. Yeah, because static so much.
And get a coach.
Mentally. You want to do long dives, and you want good results very fast, but it's not how it works. Myself, I did fast improvement. I did long dive, but I think it was also my like base level was like around 5, 6. So I started from there. So it wasn't because I pushed so much in the beginning. I trained a lot, but I didn't push so much in the beginning until I was like started to have goal at a competition.
Yeah. Anyway, at the end of the day, the person who has the best performance is someone who has done the highest volume of training. Usually, it always ends up that way.
Yeah.
And to do the
You have
highest
to
volume of
tolerate
training,
that.
that means that you are a bit conservative with your session. Otherwise, your mental gonna break sooner or later. No one can push himself to maximum again and again every day. It's just not humanly possible. So you need to think about this quantity. And if you really want to have fast progress, it's just coaching. Instead of trying things on your own, trying to figure out what technique, what approach to take, just pay someone who already did the work, who already wasted weeks, months, years trying different things. And this coach will give you the shortest way to progress, usually. You know, it's never fast enough. We always feel that it's never fast enough, but the shortest way, I guess, is doing one-on-one or taking a coach. That save a lot of time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
It's from Lou.
Next question.
How do we know when to stop before a blackout? You cannot. Simply, like, you need to just play it by numbers and increasing slowly, and then at some point your safety is going to say, you look like you don't have much left in the tank, and you just do references.
Yeah.
And with years and years of experience, there is sensors in your brain and in your body, in the neck and heart, that sense the oxygen saturation in the blood. So you get contraction. We never tell this enough in the manuals, but there is contractions triggered by low oxygen. It's not only CO2 that triggers contraction. If you're not sure or not convinced about this, lay down on your couch dry, hyperventilate, like and so purge all the CO2 out, and then hold your breath as long as you can. You will see that you're getting contraction at the end of the breath hold, and those are hypoxic contraction, let's say.
Yeah, and it's mostly from here. I feel that this type of contraction is mostly from the neck, and my coach mostly tells me, okay, now your head starts shaking. It's time to come up. It's time to prepare yourself. So maybe I have only 20 seconds left. It's funny because by yourself, if you try to do it by yourself, you think you can push longer. It happened to me in the latest competition. I did 8:59, and it was, I think, 8:10. Valdemar Carlson was coaching me, and he said I had my feet on the lane like that and hooking, and it was like, okay, trying to take me closer to the pool to grab it before coming up, and I was like doing this, and I was hooking harder because, and I was like, no, it's too early. I was thinking that I can be relaxed until 9:30 because I was so relaxed, but the fun part was I had a very heavy LMC when I come up, so I was feeling comfortable because of low oxygen.
It's very hard to
so
notice
your coach,
hypoxia.
Your coach
It's very, very difficult. You have a little bit of like tunnel vision happening, or some people also feel an extra blood shift or a vasoconstriction of the extremity towards the end, like some tingling sensation in arms and legs at the end of the breath hold. That's a sign of hypoxia. The vision getting a bit blurry and not so clean is a sign of hypoxia. When you talk to yourself at the end of the breath hold and you start not understanding yourself that well, it's a sign of hypoxia.
Exactly.
And also the sound that you hear when it starts to echo a little bit, it's also a sign of hypoxia. But everyone is experiencing it in a different way a little bit. And also it's not the same on every breath hold. I think hypoxia is kind of like hitting the brain at random places. And that's why you have like not the same sensation. But with years of training, especially dry, empty lung training, that will teach you to recognize hypoxia. And then
exactly.
Yeah, and it's a
That's what
very
I do
good thing
try.
to have, because
Yeah,
from the moment you can recognize it, there's no more giving up from doubts, because when you don't know where the limit is, at the end you start creating adrenaline and stressing out, because where's the limit? How far can I go? And when you know exactly when the blackout is happening, you can feel it happening 30 seconds early, then there's just never any doubts in your mind. And usually when you reach that level, your breath hold go up quite a significant amount. Yeah.
yeah,
So there,
yeah. Let your coach see how you affect I would say
yeah,
the neck is a good sign, and the
yeah,
color of your hair,
yeah,
blue is like
yeah. So you
if
can
you're very
see
blue.
cyanosis behind
Uh,
the ear when it start to turn a bit pale or purple, but everyone is different. So you have to know each person, what they look like when they're on the edge of the limit. And yeah, good thing Rami point out is when contractions are visible on the neck, usually the blackout is not so far away. Yeah.
yeah. Next
Uh,
question. We have 10 minutes to go. We have a lot of
yeah,
questions
we're
on
almost
the
done with
question
the
box.
comments, actually.
I have to take, yeah, I have to take a screenshot on this. It's a lot
Yeah.
to have maybe for next time.
So what is
So
your thought process, Luna is asking, during the fighting phase?
Luna, fighting phase. Let's see. Let's search after this question. Um, so process. I'm thinking on depends of every time. So it's a new. But last time I was like thinking I was entering a ring, preparing for fight, and I was nervous. But it's the hardest part of the fight. It's just before the fight, and when you enter the cage or ring, it will be like release, and that phase is when I reach 1 minute before my goal. So I try to think on other things to make time go faster when it's as hardest. And I know that this part will be over when I am around 6, 7, 8. So I tell myself that okay, just fight. Try to think on other things, and my mind goes back to the hard part, and I try to change it again. So I'm fighting with
Yeah, me,
my
so I have, as I explained, a mission every minute. So my fighting phase usually start at 8, and I would have like one mission of a minute on blocking contractions with using different tongue techniques. I will have another minute of motivational speech, talking to myself and trying to get motivated. I would have another minute, maybe focusing on hypoxia, eyes open, trying to evaluate how hypoxic I am, and focusing on the glottis to really like make sure I'm not leaking any air out, stuff like that. But overall, I would say that on the relaxation phase and the transition phase, I'm trying to zone out, to escape. And on the fighting phase is the opposite. I'm really not trying to zone out. I'm focusing mostly on 3 areas, which is neck, chest, and belly, which are the area that will contract from CO2. And I'm just focused on trying to block all the contractions, or try to control when they're not blockable, trying to make sure I don't jump from one contraction to another. So I try to like reduce their intensity. So very focused in the present moment during the fighting phase.
yeah. It's a question about the contraction block here in the question box. So I put it here. Did you use a contraction block?
Yeah.
You do it. I know that you do
I
it, but
do.
I'm not.
There is two schools. So, 2 different opinions. Some people will just tell you, let it go. There's no point trying to use energy blocking them. And there is people who tell you just block all of them. So it's two different methods. I think physiologically there's no much benefits in blocking contractions. You might not save oxygen anyway. It's not measurable. So, you know, if I don't block contraction, I have the exact same time as if I block contractions. It's just that mentally speaking, blocking contraction is a game, and that makes the time pass faster because I'm focusing on something. And if I don't block contraction, the time is much longer for me. The way I experience time is a lot longer if I don't block it. Yeah. Last question on the chat, and we have answered everyone, is from Leslie. Theory behind pro and con regarding the floating sinuses technique. So I'm guessing he probably saw a recent story because this is quite new. So recently I start basically training with no facial equipment, and then I actually inhale a little bit, or it's not even inhaling, it's like a suction, as like a reverse pack, and I flood the sinuses. I believe it's like halfway flooded. This is just, I just started, so we can't tell you much about this. My idea was that because you have water in your skull, you cannot have big contractions. So my idea was to train this way to block, to develop even further my skills of blocking contractions. And it worked. Like I've been doing this for a month now, and I had my PB in relaxation. I had like no contraction for 7 minutes. And the second idea was maybe you can develop the strength of your dive reflex by having a bit of water, a bit more water in the face, cold water in the face. However, you know, sinuses inflammation, sinuses infection, you really need to do this where you know that the pool is a no chlorine pool, like with an ozone system, or maybe a saltwater pool could work. I'm not even sure, but you have to be very careful because it gets inflamed. The sinuses get inflamed very easily. So I would not recommend anyone actually to try this, in my opinion, before there is a few guys testing it and saying if it's a good thing to do or not.
Yeah, you can have a cup of clean water with you and steam.
Yeah. So give me another 3-4 months, and then I'll tell you if it's valuable to train or not. But training with no nose clip, having a little bit of water in the nose, not in the sinuses, this I can tell you is valuable because water will enter the sinuses if you don't control your contractions. It will create a suction. So if you want to develop the skill of having less and less contraction or blocking contractions, you can definitely train with no nose clip, no facial equipment.
Yeah, I tried that actually last year with during the warm-up. I felt that I have to take some water in my nose, and I felt much more relaxed. I don't know why I stopped it. So it's interesting when you talk about it. I get some idea. Maybe it would help my dive response, but it's hard to know. I have to try it again.
Yeah.
There are some questions here. Let's see here. First, you can see it on the screen. Is 11:30 a record for?
Is 11:30 a record for eternity? I hope not. I hope not. I'm really sure I'm gonna make it to 11 this year, but I've been saying this for 3 years. So yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine. For me, I'm at 9:30 on training, so it's 2 more minutes.
Yeah, it's very, very hard. CO2 is not a problem. It's really hypoxia, the problem. Let's see. By the way, I'm going to have the next one, or probably the one after that. I don't know yet, but I've talked with Stefan Misud, the guy who holds the world record of 11.5, 11:35, and we will have have a broadcast with him in February, most likely. Okay, so he will tell us all about, you know, how he got there, you know, and what he recommends for us and everything. Okay, next question. Flooding the sinuses with vodka?
So,
no.
what do you use as warm-up exercise before your max attempt? I using 2 empty long, 1 full
and
long.
I'm using
max.
1 empty long, one empty long or 2, or no warm-up. So 3 methods: no warm-up, 1 empty long, or
Yeah.
And just know that empty long warm-ups will not work unless your dive response is strong, and your CO2 tolerance is strong. So you have to test it. You will know very quickly if it's working for you or not. If it's not working, it's because your training plan was not that great yet, or your dive response hasn't been boosted to a strong level enough yet.
Yeah. Next question. COVID made my static shorter. How do I deal with the anxiety of having to go back to my previous PV? Take your time and do it slowly, because it takes time. Do a lot of stretching, and don't try to push yourself to PB too soon, too early. So until you're not really think that, okay, now I'm ready for longer training.
And
so
talk to your doctor
your time,
also, because tell him what you're doing, what sport you're doing, and what it involves, holding your breath. And there is supplements you can take for the lungs to, you know, gain flexibility a little bit faster, clean, some supplements that make you cough and clean the bad mucus out. So, you know, you can easily ask the doctor, like, I'm holding my breath, now my performance are down, what would you recommend to take as supplements and as a diet to recover as fast as possible? Like I did this, and I had a lot of tips from doctors, and it was helpful. Yeah, I took like NAC and MSM and another one because my lungs were also fucked after the vaccine. So
yeah, I use the MSM too. Last question in the question box: how many times a week do you do reverse packing? I do it before warm up, after full long, a little bit, just for a few seconds.
I do it every day during my stretching, gently, very gently. Same as packing. I do it almost every day during my stretching, very gently. Yeah.
I've done some reverse packing hold, but I do it only when I'm like really in good shape, and I feel okay, my lungs can like take it. My
I
muscles
do it all
are
the time. Like when I do empty long dry hypoxic training, I do like 1 FRC, 1 empty long, 1 empty long reverse pack, 1 in between. Like I just, every breath hold, I try to change a little bit the level of exhale, just for fun.
How to choose the right coach for static apnea?
Just me and Remy. That's it. Don't look anywhere else.
Exactly. So, question before that: what means blocking contraction? Is it when you mentally delay them, or do you physically push against them? Also, is it better to block or better to just relax? We
already answered everything about this, but it's a technique which is done mostly with the tongue and the position of your upper body with your hips. So you have to learn it on exhale first, because it's almost impossible to learn on full long. And when you can do it on exhale, like exhale static dry, then you can start trying it on full long. And it's all about like down while your chest is compressing with the contraction, and therefore the pressure goes up to your glottis, and at the same time as it goes up, you're kind of pushing air down, and that blocks the contraction.
In my case, doing dry static training 6 times per week, I burn out 3 times. It was before the World Championship held in June. After the World Championship, I'm suffering the long-term burnout. How do you deal with it?
Yeah, you just you push yourself too much. You probably just do all the exercise too intensively, and that's how you burn out. If you keep a reserve, you can train with the quantity you mentioned for as long as you said without burning out. And maybe you're someone who doesn't handle 6 static training. 6 static training a week, you really need to be like me, just addicted to this activity. If you're not that in love with it, you should do 3 or 4. It's already a lot. Yeah, with 3 training a week, you can go up to 9-minute breath hold after a few years. Huh?
Yeah. So I think we all need it. We have already read it. I hope you will do episode 2, and please record this live. You have no idea how much we learned from you, and thank you so much from Samu.
Yes.
Thank you for listening.
All right. Should we wrap this up?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and make sure to do it right now. Thank you, guys. Next time is Florian and
yeah, I mean, there is Branko also on the list. We will try to talk with every guy who is like big in static, and every time we'll have a little post on Instagram. You need to like put all your questions so that we prepare as much as we can, and then if we have extra time, we take the questions on the main chat. We'll try to keep those static chat like from 1 hour to 2 hours, somewhere there. Yeah, so there is Stefan Misu, which is on schedule. I don't know when yet. And there is Branko Petrovic as well, which is on schedule, but I don't know yet when. And we'll just ask everyone who wants to do it. Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Great. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye-bye. You need to save it now.
Let's see now. Yeah, and okay, are you sure you want to end your